slider off.
Well, this committee encourages vigorous debate on important policy issues. If you would introduce yourself and address the committee.
Certainly. Good morning. My name is Jonathan Zook, and I'm the president of the Association for Competitive Technology. It's a DC-based IT industry trade association representing over 3,000 small and medium-sized businesses around the country. I'm also been a professional software developer for about 20 years and have had a lot of experience implementing such proposals, primarily at the federal government level. So I suppose I speak with both hats. This is certainly a complex issue in that there are very legitimate issues faced relative to archiving documents, universal access to documents, et cetera. And I think that Assemblyman Leno has done a lot of really forward-thinking work on this particular issue, and I think that issue is worth addressing in some detail and studying in some detail. Of course, the reality is that most of these horror stories that we hear about the unavailability and inaccessibility of information have very little to do with file formats and have to do with the fact that data is stored on punch cards and tapes. The interoperability of data and information systems related to email and databases is what's really at the source of the issues around hurricanes and other issues like that. So these are very, very real issues, and it's a kind of false promise to believe that changing some document format is in fact going to really address these very serious issues. It's a kind of placebo that won't have any real effect. If I handed you a punch card with an ODF document on it, you still wouldn't be able to read it. Instead, what you have is an interesting situation in which a couple of large companies are, notably IBM and Sun, have been going around the world trying to advocate for this kind of legislation, and I doubt very much it has to do with their desire for those governments to have greater sovereignty. Instead, what you see is a situation in which they're trying to create a market advantage for themselves, and while at the same time actually out in the standards bodies trying to prevent other formats from becoming standards, from becoming more open. So it's a complicated situation. There's a lot of discussion, and we'll hear a lot of discussion about the costs of these things in other states, in other countries where they've been proposed, and I think that those are serious issues, but I don't think that they represent the primary issue. As someone who's had to try and enact these kinds of proposals at the federal level, the real issue is even if you could snap your fingers today and implement this instantaneously at zero cost, it would still be a bad idea. If we all decided today to standardize on text format, the format created by Notepad inside of Windows, that would actually be the format that most vendors would be able to provide documents in. It would mean, of course, that you couldn't create documents that had any formatting or boldface or other, headers and footers, et cetera, that you're used to using. So simply the application of a standard doesn't necessarily create an environment of innovation. Instead, it can stifle innovation because that document format does have some control over the kinds of features that can be implemented to store documents in that particular format. I hope that's not too convoluted a way of explaining it. But the bottom line is that the next document format might be something for mobile devices. The next PDF format that we all use that didn't have this kind of open document genesis might be blocked from use by the Assembly, by the state government, with this kind of legislation in place. And so the Association for Competitive Technology and its 3,000 member companies really passionately oppose these kinds of technology mandates. Okay. I think California has an opportunity to be a leader in innovation, and that'd be far more important than being a leader in legislation. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members, Barry Brokaw on behalf of Microsoft Corporation. I think the interesting thing is the analysis itself of this measure. It's an exhaustive, incredibly well-written analysis. It's 10 pages long that covers a bill that's barely 3 pages, including the Ledge Council Digest. And what that points to is the extraordinary complexity of this issue. There are ADA issues that are raised in this analysis that talk about the applicability of the open standards and access. There are the issues about leveraging current investments. There are 117 current IT projects in play that are leveraging the existing state investments. There are a whole host of technological complexities as we see movement in this measure toward open document formats. we may be betting the farm on adopting a beta-type system when VHS is around the corner, if I can send us all back 20 years. But I have today with us Mr. Tom Robertson, who is Microsoft's General Manager for Interoperability and Standards, who can speak to some of the technical issues that we see from the bill. Tom?
Thank you. Chairman Arambula, Assemblyman Leno, and members of the committee. The goal of ensuring long-term preservation of and access to documents held by the state is an important one, but that is not what this bill does. Instead, while it is not the intention of the author, its effect would be to promote a single document format, ODF, for the benefit of the commercial interests that have driven that format's creation and have made, frankly, a business bet on it and want to see its success at any cost. This would create numerous problems and actually take the state away from its objectives of long-term archival and access to documents. Let me just focus on 3 problems with the bill. First, it would unjustifiably limit the ability of the state and the community to choose technologies that best meet their needs. The bill does not permit any assessment of the needs of the state or its constituents when deciding what technologies are best for them. This would have a negative impact on both government and the community. As you've heard, there are many document formats currently in use today. They meet different needs in the community, different needs of users, both inside and outside the government, and many more will be created in the future. This is a dynamic area of technological development, and it is not a standalone area. It is related to the overall development of IT over time. It's not an isolated technology. What happens if a constituent wants to use one of these other document formats that don't meet these stringent requirements and communicate with the government? Well, one of 2 things would happen. First, the government would not be able to communicate with that constituent, thereby limiting the effectiveness of government services, or the government would force the hand of the constituent in terms of the technological choices that they make. There's no reason to force people in this way. The government already has the ability to decide what technologies are best suited to its use, and the community does the same. There's no reason to force the hand of both government and the community in this fashion. As the report on the bill makes very clear, there are many unknown costs associated with this. It's not just about the technology needed the software needed to create the documents. It's about the hardware. It's about the information the broader information technology system that is implemented both by the state and by constituents. All of these costs need to be addressed and assessed before any decision is made to move forward with a bill of this type. Finally, the bill would break precedent and create special rules for one area of IT that would harm California's long-term interests. California has never before mandated technology standards by statute and would be the first in the nation to do so. Forcing technologies on the community that might not otherwise be chosen sidesteps the market dynamics. It also stalls the creation and deployment of innovative technologies over time. We don't know the future. Let's not hinder development over time. Given these concerns, we urge you to oppose 1668 as amended. At a minimum, we urge you to really focus on the stated goals, which is preserving the long-term preservation of documents and the access to those documents. And a study should be undertaken by the CIO to really decide what needs to be done to achieve that goal. What changes need to be made to current practices to achieve that goal? We have seen nothing in the dialogue that indicates that that there is a compelling reason to do this by statute.